You know, when you look at a map, you probably think you're just seeing towns and rivers. But what if I told you that hidden right there in plain sight is a secret military map? One left behind by a nation of warriors who disappeared more than 1,000 years ago. Well, today we're going on an adventure to decode the secret linguistic trail of the Lombards. So, our whole investigation kicks off with a really strange puzzle. All across Italy, you find these places with Lago, which means lake, in their name. The only problem? There's no lake. Not even a pond or a puddle, not even a hint that there ever was one. For centuries, this has completely baffled people, and it's even led to local legends about ancient lakes that just vanished into thin air. But, as you're about to see, the real story is so much cooler than any legend. Okay, so here's our game plan for cracking this case. First, we'll dig into this whole mystery of the waterless lakes. Then, we'll uncover the one single keyword that unlocks everything. After that, we're going to follow the Lombards trail all the way from Germany to southern Italy, look at the clever new method that revealed this whole pattern, and finally, really understand why naming a place is such a powerful act. All right, let's jump right in with the paradox itself. Our investigation is going to start in a little town where the clues just don't seem to make any sense. Our journey begins here in Bardonecchia, a town up in the Italian Alps. Now, its name comes from the Bardi, which was an old term for the Lombards. And right in the heart of this Lombard town, we find our first big clue. Okay, so check this out. The town's name, Bardonecchia, points right at the Lombards. We have a record from way back in 1065 that calls its church St. Mary at the Lake. But here's the kicker. Geologists and historians are crystal clear on this. There was never, ever a lake here. So what on earth was going on? Well, it turns out the answer isn't in the dirt, it's in the dictionary. This entire mystery hangs on one single, forgotten Lombard word. And here it is. The word is Lakar, and it had absolutely nothing to do with water. It meant a military camp, an outpost, a fortified settlement. It's the word a Lombard warrior would use for a strategic base. So, you see what happened? For centuries, we've been completely misreading the map. When a Lombard said Lakar, the local Italians who came later just heard something that sounded like Lago, the word they knew for lake. These names weren't describing the landscape. They were marking a military presence. And this wasn't just a one-off mistake. No way. It's a system. Researchers found that places with names that come from Lakar are almost always found near places with names that come from Bardi. You know, the Lombards themselves. It's like a signature, a pair of names they left on the land together. So now that we have the keyword, let's follow the evidence. And believe it or not, this naming pattern is so old, it actually starts hundreds of years before the Lombards even got to Italy. Let's go way back to the 2nd century. In the Lombards' original homeland up in northern Germany, the famous geographer Ptolemy wrote about a place called Lakiburgio. And where was it? In a region called Bardengau, the historic land of the Lombards. And it's just a few kilometers from a town called Bardowicq. You see the pattern? Laki and Bardi. It was already there 400 years before they even thought about conquering Italy. So, naturally, when they did get to Italy, they brought this naming system with them, and they put it to use right away. In a document from the year 770, we find a Castello di Lakar. Lakar is a dead ringer for Lakar. And where was this military outpost located? You guessed it, in the modern-day municipality of Bardi, the two names showing up together again. Now, the trail gets really hot when we follow the Lombards to the front lines. They fought a war with the Byzantine Empire for centuries in southern Italy, and these places weren't just settlements, they were strategic strongholds in a really brutal conflict, and their names were practically part of their defense system. And right here, all the pieces of the puzzle just click into place. We have a place called Piano Laco, the plain of the Lakar. Just a stone's throw away is Piani Bardi, the plain of the Lombards. Archaeologists have actually found the ruins of a medieval fort right there. And to top it all off, nearby they discovered the most magnificent Lombard gold treasure ever found in the south. The names, the ruins, the treasure, they all tell the exact same story. But maybe the most jaw-dropping example comes from this town, Rivello. Here, the names literally draw a border on the landscape. This map shows an area called Piano del Lago, plain of the lake. And right inside it, there's a fountain named Fontana dei Lombardi, the fountain of the Lombards. And here is the absolute clincher.
This fountain marked the Lombard side of the frontier back in the 9th century. And just 1 kilometer south, on the other side of that line, in Byzantine territory, you find the Fontana dei Greci, the Fountain of the Greeks. I mean, it doesn't get any clearer than that. The Lombards were literally using names to say, this side is ours, their land starts over there. It's a border treaty written right on the map.
So the evidence is pretty overwhelming, right? But you might be wondering, how in the world did anyone uncover this hidden map after more than 1,000 years? Well, the answer is in a totally new way of looking at things.
For the longest time, researchers would study one place name at a time, all by itself. But that's kind of like trying to understand a constellation by only looking at a single star. The big breakthrough came when they zoomed out, when they started looking at the entire map at once, searching for repeating patterns. And only then did the whole Lakar Bardi system just pop right out. And that brings us to the final, and I think the most powerful idea. What does this hidden map really tell us about the Lombards and about the deep, deep connection between language and power?
The big takeaway is this. When the Lombards named a place Lakar, or Bardi, they weren't just sticking a label on it. It was an act of possession. They were stamping foreign land with their own identity, their own language, and by doing so, making it culturally theirs. The researcher Giuseppe Greco, whose incredible work this is all based on, he put it perfectly. He said the purpose was to appropriate it culturally and to mark its possession. So every Lago that isn't a lake is like a faint echo of a Lombard warrior standing on a hill, looking over his new territory, and claiming it not just with a sword, but with a word. This hidden map is such a great reminder that the names all around us are like little historical artifacts, just packed with forgotten stories. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other stories are hiding in plain sight, on the street signs and the maps of the places we all call home?